Former number one prospect Grayson Rodriguez finds a new home with the Angels. Let's discuss his fantasy impact in LA and other injured players coming back this season on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics. I'm Dominic Martino here as always with Matthew Ahne, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. Thank you, everydayers and new listeners, for making us your first listen each and every day. Matt and I are longtime fantasy baseball analysts, and between the two of us, there is over 40 years of fantasy baseball knowledge, and we do this podcast to share it with you. Wherever you watch and or listen, please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review if you like what you hear. It helps us a long way to grow the podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. And all right, guys, listen, Matt and I back in action together, first time in a while. My brother, it's a pleasure to be back here doing it with you. Gets kind of lonely without you. I can't lie, brother. But listen, we got injured players. We got a big, former big name in a new place. We're going to discuss the fantasy implications of Grayson Rodriguez. We got a bunch of pitchers today, actually more pitchers than arms. And then in the latter half of the episode, we'll get into the bats like Austin Riley and more. But Matt, big name, new place, former number one prospect. Who is it, my brother?
Oh God, wrong option. It is Grayson Rodriguez. That's going to take some getting used to. Grayson Rodriguez. So he is now of the Los Angeles Angels, coming over from the Baltimore Orioles, starting pitcher, and I do not like that feature. So, okay. Anyway, sorry, that's bothering. All right, so sorry, we had some technical difficulties. Of course, there's no dull moment when Dom and I get together. Grayson Rodriguez essentially gets a new start, new kind of fresh start with the team, which, hey, that's not always a bad thing. Now, I will say this. I don't like the landing spot as much, but I mean, if you played for the Baltimore Orioles, you weren't really happy with them at all last year either. The underperformance, the manager was pretty much outside of Aaron Boone and, couldn't get the job done, and hence why he got fired midway. On top of that, Grayson kind of like a problem. Kind of lied about the injury. Wasn't sure if he was even going to play. What, Dom? Right before opening day, they finally said, "Oh, you're going on the IL."
Yep. Went
down with the, had elbow surgery and had to get bone spurs removed, which ultimately removed him for the full season. So, what can we expect from? I'm going to say a poor personality trait of a human being that is still a youngster that still needs to kind of grow up from a guy that really hasn't lived up to the hype. And we'll say pretty much 2 seasons or 1 season in total if you add the two together, with a combined innings count of 238 innings pitched total between 2 seasons. Now, a guy that had a pretty good freshman year, I would say, with a 3.86 ERA in 2024, finishing with 116 innings pitched and 130 strikeouts, the 1.243 whip. My issue comes with Grayson Rodriguez. Can he ever live up to the hype and be consistent, be on the mound, and not get in his own way? So, yeah, I'm going to draft him, and I'm going to treat him much different than I would have, going into last year if he was healthy. I'm going to treat him with a level of hesitancy because I don't know if the kid, 1, can get out of his own way, 2, perform, or 3, even stay healthy. So I feel like the kid might be a head case, which therefore I don't want to invest in a high draft pick, essentially. Granted, I don't think he's going that high. If you look at ADP, I think he's going as pitcher 50 right now, which is more of probably him being forgotten. But let's not drive him up. What? You got it?
I was going to say, even way later than that, he's going off the board as pitcher 127 on NFBC right now is the only spot you can really get ADP. You can't separate starters from relievers or closers.
But still.
Yeah, pitcher 127, pick 386 overall.
Now, as we get more news, as we see him in spring training, obviously he's going to dart up them boards. But I don't think he's going to cost much, which means he's probably going to be a target, probably going to be a value, and a guy that if I don't have to pay a premium for, I will not have an issue paying. So buying in, and as long as that kind of draft price of, I don't think 120 is going to be the answer. Probably more like 50 to 60. It's like your, SP5, SP6, depending on your league format. That's where I'm willing to pay it because the deeper you get, the better shot you want at a higher ceiling, and that's where Grayson Rodriguez is priced. I think is just right because it still take his ceiling over other shared guys. But Dom, let me know if you feel any different.
You know what the funny thing is I was gonna say that's actually like not a bad price for Grayson, but as I kind of look at some of the pitchers around here, you see Jonah Tong and Peyton Tolley, who were young pitchers who were okay last year, and then you got Zebby Matthews, Brian Bayo, Reese Olson, Bailey Ober. Logan Henderson, who Milwaukee's young pitcher over there. It's a bunch of like dart throwy kind of names, and I just like you said, I don't know if I love the landing spot for Grayson. It's been a while since we've seen him pitch. I don't know if my dart's gonna wind up there. I'll be honest with you. Maybe in some deeper formats, if I think it really just depends. If he looks good in spring training, I think what I wanted to say about Grayson is all the pressure's off. Right, you go to Los Angeles, the Angels side of things anyway, and there's former number one prospect doesn't mean anything, there anymore. You don't really have high expectations. Where in Baltimore, he was expected to be the ace of the rotation and just carry it. That team with that the young hitters over there and expected to do so much, and just Grayson. Hey, listen, was good the last time we saw him with the high 3 ERA. Over the K per 9. The whip wasn't fantastic at a 1.24, but it was moving in the right direction. I don't know. I mean, I could see people wanting to throw their darts there. It might not be for me. But hey, you know what? I can't blame you if you want the 26-year-old young former number one prospect just to see where it goes, right? And if that's the price, I'm not faulting you. If it does rise up, Matt, where you're saying, I'm definitely out 100% at that point. But if it's around here, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. If it's around pick 400 and pitcher 127, I'm not horribly mad at it.
All right, let's do it. Let's run a little drill. How about that?
Go for it.
Grayson Rodriguez or Ryan Pepio?
I like Pepio, definitely. I don't even think that one's close.
Okay. Him or Drew Rasmussen?
Oh, I love me. I love Drew Rasmussen. That one's even easier. I'll take Rasmussen for sure.
All right, him or Sandy?
Honestly, I probably wouldn't want either, but you're getting a lot closer there. Damn, that maybe if you put me on the spot, I'll probably still lean Sandy. Yeah, I'll give you Sandy.
Okay, him or Bybee?
Bybee's last one was 3 starts, if I remember correctly, were really good. I'm probably still going Bybee. Yeah, you got me there too. I'll give you Bybee. I'll give you Bybee for sure.
All right, so we're in the 70s. I mean, ADP is kind of wonky. All right, here's where I think we'll draw the line. Edward Cabrera.
It's another tough one. It's another. I think if I remember correctly too, Eddie had some good moments last year. I actually think last year was last year not his best year of his career.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, so I still might lean Eddie Cabrera. And see, I'm in basketball mode right now, so I'm happy I have you back here testing me. But yeah, I'm still probably going someone that I saw last year that had a career year. I'll probably go Eddie Cabrera over Grayson.
All right, fine. Last one, and we got to move on. Him or Aaron Nola?
Oh, I mean, I hate Aaron Nola, but I'll say this: I talked about him recently. And what I said was, if we're following the trend, if we're doing the Aaron Matt, you're out there in Philly, so I think you know the Aaron Nola trend. If we're doing the odd year, even year thing,
we've had
2026.
We've had 3 bad years in a row for him. So,
oh, okay, all right. So I don't know.
Two.
Yeah, still probably going Nola off the track record, though. I'll be honest.
All right, sounds good. Most of those guys were on the borderline. I'm definitely picking them over Sandy. But well, we spent a lot of time on that, so we'll move faster.
Well, just got traded, so
yeah, there's a lot of options. But guys, coming up next, when to draft Garrett Cole? Should you even? And what to do with Cole Ragans. Is he still an elite pitcher or not? That's all coming up next. The NFL season is here, and right now, FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets used across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. Player props, building same-game parlays, or even jumping in on the action as it completely unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add some energy to your Sundays. So you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app and visit FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Push your first $5 bet. And we got to make that first $5 bet count so you can get that $300. So I got a same-game parlay between the Jets and the Miami Dolphins going in this week. Anytime touchdown for A-Chain and Breece Hall. I think that's a fair expectation from the two. They've been crushing it. Dolphins at -2.5. And the over on points for 41.5 for the game, because even though it's a divisional game, I feel like the defenses on both ends are not great, especially with giving up their linemen, which means a lot of scoring opportunities. So make sure to make that $5 bet count. And all right, Dom, how you feeling about Garrett Cole?
So I'm actually, man, I don't know if you happen. Oh no, what's funny? I just found Garrett Cole's ADP, and Garrett Cole's coming off the board as a pitcher 94 around pick 240. Now, I don't want to, lie and say I know exactly where Cole's at in his recovery, but I believe, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, the expectation is that if it's not opening day, it should be fairly around that point for Garrett Cole. He missed the whole season last year, and only had 17 starts in 2024. So it's interesting to see, a guy who, what was that, man? I'm so sorry.
So I'll just give a little update. So he got the internal brace like Strider. So at worst, April.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird to see, a guy who, has a lot of upside and potential going that late around guys like Zach Gallen, who had a bad year last year. Actually, a guy who we're going to talk about a little bit later, Shane McClanahan. And then you got guys like Jack Leiter and Casey Mize, who were mediocre last year at best. And not that I expect Garrett Cole to be any form of an ace or the version he used to be, but if Cole could be a mid-threes ERA kind of guy with around a K per 9, if not over, because that's who he's always been his whole career, and, maybe the whip is the last thing to come back, and then the last time we saw Cole, he did have a 1.12 whip, so even if it's a 1.20 whip with a mid-threes ERA and over K per 9, I think that's a pretty good price to pay for a guy like Garrett Cole, which that winds up being what, Matt, like your SP 8 in a 12-man league, something around that, 7, 8. I mean, I'll take that all day long, just on a dart throw on Garrett Cole, maybe even being better than numbers I threw out there. But just for time purposes, I think that's a pretty good price to pay for Garrett Cole. Matt, you're muted, my brother.
Thank you. So essentially, if we start hearing, the recovery time is mid-April, he's going to start shooting up draft boards. He's going to be like a top 36. It's Garrett Cole. Look at what Spencer Strider did with the internal brace, honestly, and Cole is significantly better than Spencer Strider. So ultimately, I'm going to draft him. He's even worth like SP3 if he's going to miss only half a month or even a whole month. So, he's like 2 SP1s on your team. So I'm all about it. But let's move on. Let's talk about Cole Ragans, who had a plethora of injuries come last year. So Cole Ragans obviously had multiple groin injuries that kind of plagued him throughout the season, and then was finally shut down with a shoulder injury, with a rotator issue. So he was kind of getting his way back at the end of the season, but should be fully ready for the beginning of the season. How are we approaching Garrett Cole? What is the opportunity? The fact that is he going this low? And these are problems, but I can say this. I look at Cole and I say, SP19, including some, 3 closers, which is kind of bonkers, terrible at drafting in 80 in NFBC SC. Cole Reagans, even as an SP2, essentially, I think is where the range is where he's falling in ADP right now, is a steal. I don't care. Even if I get 150 innings out of him, as long as it's the right 150 innings, I'm going to take that over most of the guys going in the SP2 range. So therefore, Cole Reagans in SP1, if not a top 5 SP. So I want Cole Reagans on all my teams, especially if that price sticks, which I don't think he will. He probably will sneak in to be the number 12 as we see him in spring training because people are just probably burned by him. Hence why we're dealing with the low ADP.
Matt, very, very well said on Cole Reagans. And I think this is something maybe even an episode we'll do it this week. Just talking about the state of starting pitching and just how ugly it is, man. I feel like I've been saying it a lot, this off season. I'm going to continue to say it. We've been kind of spoiled with starting pitching the last, Matt, 3 to 4 years almost, where pitching kind of came back around and really gave hitting a run for its money. It starts going the other way, where a guy like Cole Reagans is great, but coming off the injury year, pitcher 19, which is what SP16, I think you said, Matt, is not right for a guy like Ragans. I think it's going to wind up being a lot higher. I personally have Cole Reagans as SP9. And that's just all things considered with him being like fully healthy, ready to go. If he's not, I think that's like the reason that we're seeing him go a little bit lower right now is just the expectation of, hey, maybe he's not healthy. I think he will be. So as long as that's being the case, this is another guy who's going to jump up like we talked about with Garrett Cole. But with more confidence, I'll take Cole Reagans than Garrett Cole just because I think, I know he's younger. I think the injury is a little bit of a fluke thing where Reagans is going to be able to stay healthy and just, be that ace that you want on your team. And starting pitching is going to be really, really tough. But let's move on here. I digress. Let's talk about Corbin Burnes, somebody who's definitely not going to be ready for opening day. Corbin Burnes, we're looking more at the All-Star break, I believe, around that time period. And, the price is obviously a reflection of that. As I scroll here, Corbin Burnes is coming off the board super, super late. But the thing is, I will say this. Don't expect vintage Corbin Burnes, man. I'm not expecting that at this point in his career. And plus, he was starting to turn, the other direction, over the past few seasons anyway. I know the ERA still looked, pretty good. But, the K per 9 was starting to go the other way. In 2024, he was under. In 2025, the 11 starts. He was only one strikeout under, but the whip was up to a 1.16. The FIP, fielding independent pitching, was up. The ERA indicator was what FIP is, has been up the last 3 years in a row. So even when Corbin Burnes comes back, I'm not expecting him to be ace caliber. Maybe it's like, mid-3s ERA. Around that K per 9, probably under, and the whip is always like that last thing to come back. So I'm not expecting a good whip either. But where the price is, I think you can take him as like one of your last starting pitchers. I can't even find him here as I'm scrolling. Matt, I don't know if you've got him queued up there. Oh, I did find him. 158 pitcher off the board, pick 546. I'm not mad at that. You could definitely throw your dart there. That might come up, though. He might be another guy who comes up as well as people just realize, hey, I want to take him with my last pick.
I ain't gonna hold out for that long. All-Star break is pretty long. Ultimately, I will bank on somebody dropping him before he, I have to stash him, and then therefore he'll be, an easier carry going into, later into the season. Whereas I only have to carry him for a month and a half. That's just my approach on Corbin Burnes. I also too don't think wasting a draft pick on a guy that's not going to be actionable, or a guy that I still have questions about whether he's actually going to be able to bounce back from this or not. Therefore, it really just makes it a little bit more of a painful pick, even with it being the last pick of the draft. Maybe if I'm in like a 15 or deeper league, that's where I kind of will maybe consider it. But if I'm in a shower league anywhere from like 12 and below, like that's a real questionable move because there's better options out there that I could just stream week in and week out without the guarantee of just holding a guy on my IL. And the second I have mass injuries, he's also going to get dropped, which happens to me almost every year, unfortunately. And then therefore these guys don't end up panning out. Garrett Cole, I'll definitely do it for because it's a short period of time. You tell me in middle of April into April, May, I'm good with that. but I'm not doing it for multiple months. It's not like, holding on to like, I don't know, Ohtani for half a season. That's a different story. Garrett Cole isn't that good. So, it is what it is. But coming up next, we got Shane O'Mac. And, is he actually a viable option or not coming up after this? All right, we are back, and we're going to be talking about Mr. Shane McClanahan of the Tampa Bay Rays starting pitcher. Shane McClanahan, you know what, quite honestly, he's coming off the board at pick 97. That is not a bad price. I will say that flat out. Especially for a guy that, looked really good in spring and then dealt with the nerve injuries in his elbow and then therefore had to get shut down with the bicep issues as well and the triceps issues to go and get everything corrected. The price is right. I don't have to invest. I'm not going to count on him either, but he's going to be ready for opening day. And as long as he's there on opening day rotation, I'm going to draft him. He's not he's not going to be one of my first 6 starting pitchers on my team. If that happens, if that's where the price is, count me out. The upside's unreal, but also too, the downside is day one if need be. So I'm not willing to take the risk, but SP, I take out 15, closers out of that on NFBC, and he's still like SP 7 or 8. That's a dream. And if he pans out, great. If not, you're dropping him in 2 weeks and you're not even batting an eye. So that is the right price for Shane McClanahan.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that for the upside that you speak of. The only thing we just have to remember is we haven't seen Shane McClanahan since 2023 in the bigs when he was 26, and by opening day, McClanahan will be 29. So it's just we haven't seen him in a while. But I'm not mad. Like you said, the price. It's not like you have to take a huge investment. I'll say this: I will take Cole over him. They're close to each other. But still there's a lot of upside here with the Shane McClanahan if he can just wheel and deal like we've seen him do in the past. So I'm not mad if you want to throw your dart in that direction at that point in the draft. Kind of similar deal with Joe Musgrove, who's up next here, the last pitcher we're going to talk about today. Haven't seen him, since 2024. And, he's got some upside here, and I think the Padres are actually gonna need some innings from Musgrove this year as they lose Michael King if they don't resign him. Dylan Cease, we talked about him recently. He goes over to the Blue Jays. So there's going to be a lot of question marks in this Padres rotation, and I think they really are just hoping Joe Musgrove can fill that rotation spot. Hey, listen, if he's a mid-3s ERA kind of guy with over a K per 9, and like a 1.15-ish kind of whip. That's what I'm expecting from Musgrove. But then again, I kind of just need to see what he's doing in spring training before we can, fully, say what we're doing with him. He's actually not far off from where McClanahan and I just saw him. I just scrolled past him somewhere. He was right by McClanahan and Cole, though. He's not far off from around pick, was that 268? That's pitcher 104 for Musgrove. There's some upside there. You can throw your dart in that direction, and I'm not going to be mad at it.
Yeah, Musgrove is interesting, but ultimately, I'm willing to pay the price because it's going to be a cheap little trick. If he hits, he hits. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I'm not going to have any feelings towards it. Hopefully the price just stays cheap. That's really what it is. If he climbs up in the higher rounds where I'm not willing to take him, let's move on. So about Austin Riley of the Atlanta Braves third baseman. And, this is an interesting one. Austin Riley has been drafted as a top third baseman for years. And these last couple of years have been a little bit more on the rougher side. He's coming back from an injury as well that, required surgery, had an abdominal injury that, obviously was probably hampering some of his performance. But, based off of, the last couple of years, 24 and 25, I don't think an abdominal injury was there for 2 years. And therefore, it makes me question what's going on. We had 3 amazing years between 21, 22, and 23 where the talent was just absolutely incredible. Lowest batting average was 273 over that time, batted 281 and 303 over that time, had over 30 home runs and really good ribby numbers and run numbers. So what has happened? Why is he falling off the cliff in 24? Well, these are the questions we got to ask ourselves. Now, everything screams he should have had more power numbers. Had great barrel percentage, had 15.2%, and mixed with hard contact percentage of 50%. You mix those two together, which barrel percentage is the quality of contact that you're making, and doing it 15% of the time is a great number. It's elite. You mix that with how often he's hitting that hard ball 50% of the time, and he should have a lot more home runs than he said. So is there going to be positive regression in power? Absolutely. Can he hit 30 home runs? Absolutely. Here's the issue I see that's not been in his game in a while: the strikeout percentage. And this is where I think we're dealing with a little bit of a setback. He struck out 28 points for the time. This is a career high for him, which is not a good career high. It's a bad career high. But last year wasn't too far off. It was at 26. So it's gone up 2%, going all the way up from 24% where he had his better seasons. He's also walking at an all-time low at 6% as well. Can there be some positive regression in that? Absolutely. But I'm not ranking him as a top 5 third baseman anymore. It's more like, third baseman 7 for me, I think. I haven't done my rankings yet, but just based off of the names at the position that I think I want is kind of where I'm at with Austin Riley. The team as a whole, outside of Olsen finally bouncing back, Acuna being back and awesome, Ozuna not really being as good, Ozzie Albies not being as good. The team around him doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of opportunities to see these elite numbers when that team was humming and on a World Series run. So therefore, I'm going to take a complete step back away from Austin Riley as an elite talent until he shows me otherwise. Now, he's absolutely crushing in spring training. I'm allowed to make mistakes, or I'm allowed to readjust my opinion. But, looking at a 2-year average, looking at, a major drop-off that stayed consistently falling, tells me that the batting average which made him so valuable, along with the good counting stats of runs and ribs with the team around him, takes a step back and has some negative regression, even with positive regression in the power stat category, makes him not as valuable to me.
Damn, Matt, I thought we were rocking and rolling. We haven't done an episode together in a while. I was feeling the vibes, the energy, but this is where we kind of start to go in opposite direction. So if we look back at 2024, Riley's first bad year in a while, he broke his hand. So we kind of got to give him a little pass for, that year. It's not really anything that was in his control. Got hit in the hand, missed the rest of the season. Last year, it was consistent abdominal issues, all year. Well, not all year. Kind of started at the beginning of the summer, July, kind of ran through till the end of the season, couldn't get it right. If everything is taken care of and, the abdominal issue is fully gone, I don't see why Austin Riley can't get back to maybe not prime Austin Riley. He's going to be 29 years old, getting a little older, but 30 home run, 90, 275, 280 kind of guy. I think it's definitely in the realm of possibility. The underlying stuff last year, a year where he dealt with a lot of injury, I know was down in certain areas, but not horribly, tremendously down, not to the point where he can't get back as a 29-year-old. And as you mentioned, I think it depends on the Braves too. Is Acuna going to be 75% of what Acuna used to be? Is Matt Olson going to bounce back? Is Ozzie Albies? There's a lot of question marks in Atlanta, and obviously Austin Riley's one of them. And the price isn't horrible. Pick 72, that's the 5th third baseman off the board. Matt, as you talked about, I moved them down too. Actually, I have them as the 6th third baseman in my rankings. And
we're not far off.
Yeah, no, we're not. We're not.
I said 7.
We're not too far off, but you talk a little negative about my boy, so we're not too far off. Pick 72 last year, we got to take him at pick 30. You get a nice little discount on Riley, and I love
the price.
Yeah, I think if you're taking him there at pick 72, you can make some money. You can make some money if Riley gets back to at least 75% of who he used to be, which I think is definitely possible. Matt, once again, I'm not going after the messenger. But I felt just saying offended about my boy Austin Riley.
You forget. I did say there is going to be positive regression in the power. I said that's 100% there. I just said the batting average seems
I digress.
The batting average, I agree with you. I said it's just not going to be elite like it was. The runs and ribs is my biggest question mark for the team. So if he does 80 and 80 with 30 or 35 even, and bats 265,
which he could do,
right? But are you you're not feeling wonderful about pick 72, but it's better than the
I'm
other
mad at
options
it.
at
I'm
third.
not mad at it.
But it's better than the other options at third base, but it isn't sexy. It isn't great. It isn't Austin Riley.
Yeah, well, and then let's talk about this too real quick. So if you're going by NFBC eligibility, right? Austin Riley's the last of the good
Yeah, the
third
Mohegans. Yeah,
basemen.
yeah.
Michael Garcia's after that, Eugenio
Vomit.
Suarez, Bregman. And are you feeling really great about that? Probably not.
No, but Jordan Westberg is being underdrafted. But that's just
That is true too. Let's try and sneak in one more bat, Matt. We only got one bat, and let's talk about let's do Santander. Let's do Anthony Santander. He's right there. First year with the Blue Jays. And Matt, what do we say about a lot of free agent acquisitions or guys going to new teams? First year, new team, get it out of the way. We've seen it a lot. Jose Reyes and Juan Soto are memorable names I could think of in recent years. Not Juan Soto with the Yankees or Mets, but when he went back, was it the Padres? Didn't have a great first season with them. But, Santander dealt with injuries last year, only played 54 games, 6 homers, hit 175. He's a career 241 guy. He averaged over almost 30 home runs a game or a season the last 3 years. I think there's going to be a huge turnaround season. And right now, Matt, I don't know if you have the ADP in front of you because I don't.
I got it. Hold on.
I'm scrolling. This is good. This is good. The more I have to scroll, that means the more we can make some money off this. Outfielder 55, pick 229. I love it. That's a great price for a guy like Santander. Matt, thoughts?
I'll make it quick. Santander right now, if we're going based off draft price, he's going to be a sleeper for me and a value. Ultimately, you just can't pass on that kind of play. I what was I calling him going into draft 2 years ago?
The bank.
Well, not just the bank, not the nickname, but
my bad.
Kyle Schwarber Light. A guy that's going to hit about the same kind of batting average, going to have the power, just not going to have the runs and ribs.
I do like that comp.
And quite honestly, now that he's on the Blue Jays, who have went pretty deep this year, I think it's even better opportunity for him. So it's going to be a great bounce back season for Anthony Santander. Is going to be a target all out season. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share the show because we truly love bringing it to you each and every day. And thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, check out the all new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get your local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB or YouTube or wherever you're listening to your podcast. Peace out.